All right, everyone. Let's dive into something that I think a lot of us can relate to. We're all trying to make healthier choices, right? Like cutting back on sugar. And that often means looking for those, guilt-free alternatives.
Yeah, exactly. We want that sweet taste without that sugar rush. It's like searching for the holy grail of healthy eating sometimes.
Right. And it used to feel like artificial sweeteners were the answer. But then this new study, and this is a big one published in Nature Medicine, no less kind of throws a wrench in the works, especially when it comes to erythritol.
Yeah, erythritol, it's been marketed as the good sugar substitute for so long. 0 calories, doesn't spike your blood sugar. I mean, it sounded perfect. But this study is raising some red flags, to say the least, linking it to something we definitely don't want to mess with heart problems.
No kidding. And not just vague, might be bad for you kind of warnings either. This study's pointing to a potential increase in blood clots.
Exactly. We're talking heart attacks and strokes. And it's not a small study either.
Right. Over 4,000 people, which makes these findings hard to just brush off, right? I mean, they found that folks with higher levels of erythritol in their blood were actually more likely to experience those blood clots. And that's kind of terrifying when you really think about it.
Absolutely. And what's really concerning is that, it doesn't act like regular sugar in the body. So it kind of throws a wrench in things that we thought we knew.
See, that's what throws me for a loop. I was on the erythritol train. No blood sugar spikes. Sign me up.
Oh.
But this whole blood clot thing, that's a game changer. So how is this even happening? How's it causing these problems if it's not like regular sugar?
Well, it seems like erythritol might be messing with our platelets. Those are the tiny cells in our blood that basically clot and help stop bleeding.
Oh, right. Like when you get a cut.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine them as tiny puzzle pieces coming together to form a seal.
Okay, I get it.
So what researchers are finding is that erythritol seems to be making those platelets clump together when they shouldn't, even when there's no injury to heal.
Oh, so it's like they're going into overdrive or something.
Exactly, increasing the risk of dangerous blockages.
So it's not about the blood sugar spikes like we initially thought. It's this whole other mechanism that's unsettling, to say the least. And what really gets me is just how sneaky erythritol is. It's in everything.
Oh, I know. And you think you're doing the right thing by choosing those healthy options.
Right, like those protein bars,
Exactly. Or low sugar drinks or all those keto-friendly snacks.
Okay.
It's everywhere these days.
You're trying to make healthy choices, you're reading labels, and bam, hidden erythritol. It's almost like a gotcha moment.
And to make it even trickier, it's not always listed so clearly on the label.
What do you mean?
Well, it's often blended with other artificial sweeteners, so you might not see erythritol like, in big, bold letters.
Right.
It might be kind of hidden down the list, maybe even combined with something like, aspartame.
Oh, aspartame. Now that's a name I haven't heard in a while. Didn't that used to be like public enemy #1 in the sweetener world?
Yeah, it definitely had its own share of controversies. Some studies suggested it might be linked to headaches, even migraines for some people.
Interesting.
And I think it's important to note that the research on aspartame has been, a little mixed, to be honest. And a lot of health organizations, they still consider it safe within, recommended limits. But this whole erythritol situation, it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It really does. Like if one sweetener that we thought was like totally harmless could have these cardiovascular risks, what about all the others? Like where do we even begin to draw the line?
Exactly. And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
So where do we go from here? I mean, artificial sweeteners, they're everywhere. It feels almost impossible to avoid them completely. Are we all just doomed to a life without sweetness?
Well, I don't think it's quite that dire. I wouldn't hit the panic button just yet.
Okay, good.
I think it's all about finding that balance, wouldn't you say?
Right.
This research, if anything, it's a good reminder that just because something is labeled sugar-free, it doesn't automatically get a free pass when it comes to our health.
Right. It's not a free-for-all.
Exactly.
So it's more like proceed with caution than run for the hills.
Exactly. Awareness is key, right? Read your labels carefully. Be mindful of what you're consuming and, don't be afraid to ask questions. If you see erythritol or any artificial sweetener for that matter, take a second to really think, is this really worth it?
It's like we have to up our label reading game even more now. We're practically like food detectives trying to solve the case of what's actually in this stuff.
I like that, food detectives.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. And like any good detective story, there's always more to uncover. This study, it mainly looked at heart health, right? But it definitely makes you wonder, what other potential effects might artificial sweeteners have that we haven't even thought about yet?
Yeah, are we just scratching the surface here? What about the long-term effects?
Exactly. That's the big question, isn't it? And it's why it's so important to stay informed. Be a little critical of what you see and hear, and don't just take one study or even one headline as like the be-all and end-all. Dig a little deeper, ask those questions, and remember, research is always evolving.
That's true. What we think we know today might be old news tomorrow.
Exactly.
Well, I think the big takeaway here is, like you said earlier, moderation and information. Those are our best tools. And hey, maybe this is a good excuse to rediscover some of those naturally sweet treats that, nature has to offer.
There you go. Now you're talking. A little bit of natural sweetness never hurt anyone.
Right. All right. Well, this has been quite the eye-opening deep dive, to say the least. Big thanks to you for breaking it all down for us. And to all our listeners out there, we hope this encourages you to stay curious, keep asking questions, and most importantly, make those informed choices that work best for you. Until next time.